Wait a moment, please. Is this working? Wait, I'm sorry. So let me check whether this is working properly or not. Yes, it's working. And the last vice, many are traveled. Richard Gon, Priyatna Poznakomica. Hello everybody, I'm Richard Gon of Work to Live podcast version. And as I used that Russian greeting, so which means, and if you have already checked out the title of this episode, what I'm going to talk about is Russian. What I'm going to talk about is Russian stuff. And so why I said is that, you know, so the word stuff doesn't have you know doesn't have the plural form. So which is why, so you know, so it's so some people say stuff, but actually, so the correct term is only stuff, not stuff, or stuffs, but stuff. So which is why, so anyway, so which is why I repeated I have just repeated that sentence, so that phrase twice. Anyway, so you know, this has nothing to do with the main track of this episode, and this is one of the you know, so digressions in this episode. But actually, so you know, this time I'm not thinking of creating a long episode. So I'm thinking of finishing this episode early. And if you have already, by the way, so if you have learned Russian language even a little, so you have I think you have already understood the meaning of the title of this episode. And it's fine to tell you the translation of the title. It's very easy. The translation is Putin bye bye, which is the meaning of the title of this episode. And you can understand why. You know he was said bye bye. So that is because, and I'm sorry for the sound of siren. Maybe that's the siren. Wait a moment, please. I think that is a siren of. So I'm sorry, I couldn't find out the actual car or the actual vehicle blaring or emitting that siren, or making the sound of that siren. And anyway, so this is working, and this application is working is what I wanted to say. And so there was I'm recording this episode in the beginning of July in 2023. And if you are listener, or if you are listeners who are listening to this episode 100 years after this time, or 100 years after this present time, so meaning if you are listening to this episode in the beginning of July, or in summer, or in the summer in 21st 23, so you have already known what have happened. But actually, so I'm creating this episode in the beginning of July in 2023, or in the summer of 2023. So which is why, so you know, there was you know, mutiny. So you know, there you know, that type of word, or that type of, you know, rebellion, or you know, rebellion has many words. So what I'm saying is that, you know, so you know, what happened in Russia was called, what happened in Russia caused by what started by you know, Mr. Prigozhin was called, or it's called you know, mutiny. So what Mr. Prigozhin started is called mutiny. And you know, it's fine to call that event, for example, you know, rebellion or uprising, or you know, riot can have another different, you know, not the meaning, so nuance. Not maybe riot doesn't fit what happened in what took place in that Russian mutiny. And so anyway, but actually, I think that is that mutiny is a budding phase for the subsequent or for the following events which are going to occur in the future, or which are going to happen in the near future, which is what I'm saying. And which is why, anyway, so as you have already not experienced, as you have already expected, or as you have already predicted, or as you have already guessed, maybe so people have known that so the end of the presidency by Mr. President Putin is really imminent, or which means his presidency or his government is going to end. So his government is going to end. His how should I say his tenure, the tenure of Mr. Vladimir Putin is going to end, which is what we have already known from the beginning of the russo-Ukrainian war, and here has come that mutiny, which means so what I'm thinking of occurring in the future is anyway. So what is going to occur in the future is the second Russian Federation, which is what I'm thinking of, which is what I guess. Using a simpler term. So so it's fine to use the difficult words for example speculations or predictions, but actually so recently not so that is not a recent trend, but actually so East Asia has, or Southeast, including Southeast Asian regions, have some English speaking nations, and one of the remarkable examples is Singapore, and another example is it's not Finland but is Philippines. And so recently this podcast began to acquire, or began to engage some listeners who live in those English speaking, so nearly English speaking nations, or which are almost English speaking nations, and one which is Singapore, and the another region, and not another region, but another country is Philippines, and in which many people have abilities of speaking English language, and anyway, so which is why before this is not a past event, but actually before not months before, or anyway, so roughly saying until the last year, including the last year. So the majority listeners of my podcast had been American people who live in the United States, and European people who live in West European countries, and there had been some listeners who lived in some East European rich countries, for example Poland. And another, I can't remember another example, but actually, so majority listeners had been, British people and American people and other continental, East European people who had been the majority listeners of my podcast. But actually, recently, this podcast began to engage, began to appear some Asian listeners who live in Southeast Asian countries and living in East Asian countries, which is So not cohort, but actually which is not composite. So which is a structure or the not stratification, or which is a structure or which is so not constituents, which is a structure or which is distribution of, or which is demography of the listeners of my podcast. I'm sorry for my talking about a digression, which has nothing to do with which has something little to do with the main track of this episode. And anyway, so maybe you have already known that the end of the presidency of Mr. Putin would come in the near future. People have predicted that, which is my understanding anyway. And how his presidency is going to end is that this is my speculation, but this is my guess, but actually which is why this podcast began to acquire non-native listeners of English language. So which is why I'm trying to use simpler words for describing, and to start with, I'm a non-native speaker of English language, which is why of course this is one of the reasons why I have used simpler terms of English language. And anyway, Putin Paka is the main track, and what is how his presence, or including maybe including his life, how his life and how his presidency is going to end in the near future is the second Russian Federation, which means so Russian Empire disappeared from this world in the course of the Russian Federation, which took place from 1917, and the Russian Federation lasted until 1923, and Russian Federation ended in 1923, which is 100 years before this present time. This is I don't know whether this is I don't know whether it's fine to call that relationships as coincidence. There must be no correlation between the end of the first Russian Federation and this time, which is 2023. But actually, so what is going to happen is such a thing like Russian Federation, which started from February Revolution, and after which came the era of the dual powers, and after which came wait a moment please, October Revolution was the correct term of that revolution. So actually, so I checked out with Wikipedia, and what happened in the course of Russian Revolution is that what occurred at first was February Revolution, which occurred on March in 1917, and after which came the era of dual power, which lasted from March to November in 1917. And after which came the era of October Revolution and Russian Civil War, and which took place from November 1917 to June 1923. So it's July. So 100 years before this time. So Russian Revolution had already ended. Which I don't think this is a coincidence, but actually, So anyway, I don't know whether his presidency or the presidency of Mr. Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin is going to end in this year. I don't know whether the presidency of Mr. Putin is going to end in this year, or maybe I think few years from now on is the time left to his government. which is what I think. So it means so what I'd like to tell you is that in few years or in 2 or 3 years after or so few years after he will not have been the president of Russia, which is what I'm saying, and I don't know whether he's going to die in few years or not. But actually, so in few years, I think well, I don't think he will have he would be the I don't think he would be the president of Russia, which is my speculation. Please make sure this point. And which is all the stuff I'd like you to know this time. So if you'd like to, if you're thinking of or if you live in Russia, there are some listeners who live in Russia. So if you'd like to so live away from your country, or meaning so if you live in Russia and if you'd like to run away from your country, so this time is a chance, which is well, this time is the greatest opportunity, which is what I'd like you to know this time if you live in Russia. So wait a moment, please. I'm going to repeat the title and the conclusion of this episode. And the title is Putin Paka Paka, and the conclusion is the end of Mr. Putin. Lol. Yeah, I added the word lol. So lots of laughter. Anyway, so I feel sad about the russo-Ukrainian war, but actually, so anyway, I think his government, the government of Mr. Putin, it's going to end in the near future, or as soon as possible, or that government is going to die, or that government is going to pass away from this world, in a flash, which is what I think. So translating the title, Putin bye bye. So and this Russian language is pronounced Putin paka paka. So that's it. Thank you very much for everything. See you. And I happen to have come up with another word for mutiny. So I picked up in the beginning of this episode some words having almost the same meaning as the word mutiny. So and I picked up some words, and for example, rebellion and uprising and riot and I said that riot had a different connotation, or had a different nuance, but actually, so I came up with a word, and which is revolt, and another word is revolt for the meaning of mutiny. And this is an additional piece of information